hotel room on my phone because I don't have my laptop is not working. I can't seem to get it to connect. So I am calling in on my phone from Central California from a hotel room this morning because I don't want to miss out on this free Ielts class.
Awesome. I'm going to take a picture on my phone of you wearing a lampshade as a hat.
Well, I had to try and find a good place to sit, and I couldn't find anywhere in the hotel room. This is dedication, Alex.
Well, it is, and I appreciate your dedication because Tanya and myself are all about helping all the nurses watching right now to achieve their American dreams. So if that's not dedication that Tanya is providing by waking up, well, Paul, you woke up at 5 a.m., did you?
5 a.m. this morning.
Wow.
Yes, but this is not about me, Alex. Not about you. This is about our nurses.
Absolutely. But that is dedication.
I'm just looking at myself now. It does look really funny with me. It really does look like I'm wearing a lampshade. I can see if I can try and move it, but that's all. That's the only.
No, that's good. That's good. You stay right there. I'll have a permanent smile on my face for the whole class. So I want to see, as Tanya said, it's not about us. It's about all of you who are really struggling with your IELTS right now. We get so many messages, don't we, Tanya, from nurses, kinetics nurses, and other nurses out there who probably should be with kinetics about the fact that they're struggling to pass this IELTS examination. Before we start the class, Tanya, what struggles are you seeing from nurses nurses from the Philippines, India, all around the world of the nurses that are struggling right now? What are you hearing from them?
Well, lots of frustration. Everybody knows that even though you can file an I-140 without the IELTS, you need the IELTS in order to come to the US because you can't get the visa screen without it, and you need the visa screen for the consulate interview. So, we have no choice. You have to have the IELTS. It's just a matter of when. And many people being, feeling very frustrated about it because sometimes it can be the speaking. And I think that's why, as we've discussed, Alex, we're doing so many mock speaking exams because there really is, I think that is one of the biggest needs and one of the biggest frustrations. And really often it comes down to practice and to confidence.
Absolutely. There's a lack of confidence that I see in a lot of nurses who are taking the speaking exam. Even some nurses that we've had in our previous IELTS speaking mock exams, some are confident and some are not so confident. And confidence is a huge factor, especially when you're in that real speaking scenario and you have an examiner in front of you and you're going through part 1, part 2, and part 3 of the speaking exam. So, but confidence comes from practice, but not just practice. Like I always say, you can't just speak to the wall. The wall does not reply back. You have to get practice and feedback. So it's not just practice and do millions of speaking exams by yourself. You've got to get the feedback and the corrections as well. And that's why we want to provide these kinds of classes for you. And Kinetics and Swoosh have been doing these for Lafora. If you're one of the Lafora nurses, we've been doing these classes for a long time now. And if you've joined us from elsewhere, if you're one of Kinetics registered nurses or one of on our Swoosh email list and you heard about this class, we're constantly doing these kinds of classes to help every single one of you because we believe in all of you to achieve your American dream. So that's really important. But Tanya, for anyone who doesn't know you and Kinetics, can you just briefly explain what you do and how you can help nurses?
So we are a recruitment company. We are not a staffing company, which means that our clients are direct hire. You are sponsored by the client. You are the employee of the client, whether it's a hospital, a nursing home, a surgery center, correctional facilities, and we work with facilities in all 50 states. So right now today, because the reason why I'm wearing my lampshade is because I'm in Central California and we are meeting with a whole lot of new hospitals right now that are coming on board, which is really exciting. But as I said, this is not about kinetics, and if you are not a kinetics nurse, you are very welcome to still join these free IELTS classes. This is for everybody. This is a frustration for everybody. I was an immigrant myself many years ago. I know personally how hard it is to come to this country, and we want to make sure that we try and spread the love and that we help as many people as possible. In fact, we had some good news, Alex, that it's worthwhile to even talk about. And that is in the State of the Union speech, President Trump said, and I'm going to quote it, he said, "I want people to come into our country in the largest numbers ever, but they have to come in legally." And that was last week in the State of the Union address. So that is good news for nurses. Nurses are of short supply in the US. The American Nurse Association said that by 2022, there will be a shortage of 1 million registered nurses in the US, which means there's a lot of opportunity. There's never been a better time. So you've got to get your IELTS. There's just no choice now. You've got to buckle down and get your IELTS. So I think there are a lot of people that will be helping today with the mock English speaking classes. And for everybody, we're going to be continuing to do this because we want to make sure that all of you pass.
So the message I'm hearing coming from you loud and clear, Tanya, is the time is now, not 2020, 2021, 2022, Correct. Struggling with IELTS, taking the exam many times and not passing. The time is now, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you nurses out there. 1 million nurse shortage. That is huge. So, I mean, if it's...
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt you, but 2022 is around the corner.
Yeah, it's only a few years away, everyone. So if you are looking to pass as soon as possible, then please participate in this class today. Please take advantage of it. We're going to be bringing our very highly experienced IELTS teacher, Alexander, from the UK, and he's going to be coming into the class in any moment now. And lots of people tagging their friends on Lafora in this class. And yes, please continue to do that. Share the video to your Facebook page. If you share your video if you share this video that you can see right now, if you're on Facebook, share it to your page, then we're going to give you our free welcome pack for IELTS. If you do that, then at the end of the class, I'll provide you the link in order to get access to our free video lessons for speaking, reading, writing, and listening. So you'll get access to that. So tag your friends, share the video to your page, and you'll get a reward for your efforts. Okay, it's very easy to do that, so please do it. But lots of people here on Facebook in Lafora as well. We've got Mia, Miley, Ziza, and we've got Perla, Rochelle, Emmy, Max, Ronalyn. We've got Dean, we've got Art, and then on Zoom. So if you want to come inside the class, I should say, I'm going to give you the link inside the session, inside the Facebook class. If you want to participate and you want your speaking to be assessed and you're given corrections on your speaking, not anyone else's, your speaking. If you want that, then come inside our free class on Zoom, and Alexander will give you a speaking mock exam with feedback, corrections, and a score. So once you get that score, you know when you should be booking and taking your examination, because a lot of nurses are going into this exam and they're not 100% ready. You want to go in there, like we said, Tanya and I said before, about confidence. By having your speaking assessed by a highly experienced IELTS native English speaking teacher, you will have that understanding of where you're at right now and where you need to be. And remember, you all need a 7 to make your American dream a reality in speaking, and a 6.5 overall. So please make sure you take advantage of that.
And I think, Alex, it's worthwhile to remind everybody that when we at Kinetics, when we were looking at finding a partner to help us to do these free Facebook Live sessions, the reason why we selected Swoosh is because it's the Swoosh examiners are native English speakers, first of all, and second of all, it is a UK company where the criteria for IELTS are much higher than the criteria for the US. And if you've had success in the UK, then of course we know that your success in the US is going to be even greater, because the criteria for passing the IELTS is lower. So I just want to make sure to mention that and remind everybody of that. And lastly, before you start the course, I don't want to forget to give a shout out to the Lafora team, to thank them very much for giving us this opportunity, because I know that without that, we would never be able to reach as many people as we are doing.
Absolutely. I definitely concur with Tanya on Luis and the admin team at Lafora. Thank you so much. I'm actually just about to post the link into the Facebook Live now. So in Lafora, you'll be able to see. We've got Lisa from the Kinetics team watching. Good to see you, Lisa. Lisa's got her pen and paper ready. I'm sure she's writing down many notes. And yeah, so I put down there swooshenglish.com/IELTS free class. So click that link if you want to join us inside the class and you want practice, feedback, and corrections from Alexander and myself. And Tanya could probably give some help as well. She'll be one of our IELTS teachers.
Yeah, I could be an IELTS teacher soon after all these classes, Alex.
Absolutely.
I'm going to add that to my repertoire. I can wear a lamp hat. I can recruit nurses, and I could be an IELTS teacher.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can wear many hats. I just want to, before we start the class, I just want to point out we've got Jean Navarre watching. He's one of our Filipino nurses, and she passed her exam recently for IELTS. So huge congratulations to you, Jean. I'm very, very happy with your success. And I don't know, Jean, if you, Jean's a very nice person. If you want to offer any tips to anyone who's on Facebook watching right now, Jean, then please do. But yeah, lots of people tagging their friends. I'm going to bring Alexander into the session now, if I can see him. Yeah, he's there. Okay, Alex, I've just promoted you.
We got Friday Facebook Live with double Alex again, right?
Double helping of Alex. It's like ice cream. You get two scoops. Okay, let's see, Alex. Let's make you co-host as well. Okay, Alexander, are you there? To make it easy, we'll call him Alexander. We'll call me Alex.
Hi, how are we doing?
Hi, Alexander. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Hi, Alex.
Hi, how you doing, Tanya?
Good, and you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm all right, thank you.
Good. So we have got another speaking mock exam today, and Alexander, we're going to be choosing some nurses very, very soon who will do a speaking exam with you, and they're getting that feedback, they're getting the corrections, they're getting that real world practice with a highly experienced IELTS teacher from the UK. So most of you out there are doing self-study with free materials. Some students might be doing classes with a non-native English teacher, but this is, in our opinion, is more important to get a native English speaking teacher, from America, UK, New Zealand, Australia, those kinds of countries where the first language is English, so we can easily give you that feedback and the corrections that you need. For anyone who has not been taught by Alexander before, because we've got some of our paid students watching, and we've got some students who are just watching maybe for the second, third time, and some students watching for the first time. Alex, can you just introduce yourself and let these people know how you can help them today?
Sure. So as stated, my name is Alex, or Alexander for greater simplicity. I'm currently based in the UK, but I've worked around. I've worked in Asia and in South America, giving English language instruction. One of the things that I've particularly focused on is the IELTS exam. Obviously, it's a really important international exam, and I've helped students prepare for it who have desired to work and study in countries where English is spoken as the first language, from Australia, the United States, and obviously the United Kingdom as well. So what I'm going to be focusing on today are speaking strategies and giving as much useful feedback as possible in order to help you achieve those 6.5s or above, which you'll need in order to get the qualification you need to work in another country.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alexander. So as he said, 6.5 overall and a 7 in speaking is what you need. So if we examine some people today and they're at a 6.5, then Alexander is going to tell them how they can take it from the level that they're at right now in order to take it to a 7. Okay, so that's what you need to be aiming for, that 7, that magical 7. And you can get that with the practice and feedback that we'll be providing today. Okay, so I'm going to hand the class over to Alex now. Keep sharing the Facebook Live video, keep tagging your friends. If enough people tag and share this video to their Facebook pages as well, we're going to give you our free IELTS welcome pack at the end of the class. So you must stick around if you want that link. We'll give you access to our reading, writing, listening, speaking video courses. So like I said, 2 things. Tag your friends, because remember, this is a completely free class. We want as many people as possible to benefit from this. And number 2, yeah, so tag your friends, and number 2, share the video. And if you want a speaking mock exam, and your name's Pamela, Augustine, Aish, Salvador, Beth, Figuracion, Don Vitucio, JM Asanas, Mary, Art, all of you, if any of you want a speaking mock exam with Alex live in our class, then come into today's session, swooshenglish.com/free IELTS class. I'll post it in the chat box for you again, and you can join us inside here. And like I said, practice with Alex. So I'm going to hand over the class to Alex now. Just before we do that, we've got a lot of people in here right now. Adanique, Arlene, Bincy, Mary, John, Blessy, Don, Hannah, Jocel's one of our kinetics nurses, Joseph, Linda, we've got Melanis, Patrice, Pedro, lots and lots of students. So if you are in the Zoom class and you want to have practice with Alex on your speaking, then please let us know in the chat box. Say, yes, I want practice. So yes, I want practice, and we will choose some nurses. Thank you very much. And I'm going to hand you over to Alex now.
Okay, so I hope that there are some volunteers, because this is obviously a great opportunity to actually get some feedback directly on your speaking. It's not often that you're going to have that opportunity to get such feedback, so I really hope that you do participate. Before we actually look at the mock exams, I wanted to just give a little bit of feedback on one of the parts of the speaking exam. So for any of those of you who have been part of this class before, you'll have seen that in the previous class, I had a look at speaking part 2, and I had a look at some tips in terms of notes that you could make to help you continue speaking for the full 2 minutes. And that's obviously a really important thing, that for part 2, you keep speaking for the time that you are expected to speak for, so that you can demonstrate as high a level of fluency as possible. What I want to have a look at today, though, is relating to speaking part 3 of the IELTS exam. And I want to look at some tips that we can use in relation to that. So for all of you guys who are part of the Zoom class and on the Facebook class as well, I want to make this interactive. So I'm going to ask some questions, and please do respond and get involved. You can share your answers on the chat. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. So in relation to speaking part 3, the first question I want to ask is, what are some of the challenges with speaking part 3? What are some of the difficulties that you have had when you are approaching this part of the exam? So obviously I'm talking to those who maybe have done the exam before, or when you've been preparing for the exam. Are there any challenges that you've had with the third part of the IELTS speaking test? Just take a moment to think about that, and if there are any challenges, please do share them in the chat. Just as I'm seeing if we get some responses there. Obviously, the exam is structured, for those of you who haven't done the exam before, with part 1, which is focused on more general questions, introductory questions, questions about hobbies and background, and where you work, and questions such as that. Part 2 is the extended response to the long term, where you're expected to speak for between 1 to 2 minutes on a personal topic, on a personal experience that you've had. And then part 3 is a little bit more abstract. So the questions that you're asked are not necessarily going to be just about your personal experiences, but they're going to be asking more about opinion. And you're going to be, ideally, you are going to be justifying those opinions. So are there any sort of challenges that you can that you've had when trying to do that, or that you would imagine might come up when you are trying to answer those sorts of questions? So any responses there? Anything that you've got in terms of your own sort of background experience is going to be useful to share. Okay, so I can see that Don has said here that questions that you're not familiar with. Yeah, absolutely. So part 3 can do that. It can throw up questions, for example, on the economy. It can throw up questions on politics. It can throw up questions on the environment, aspects of technology. So the questions are not designed to require specialist knowledge, but they might be the sorts of questions that you've not really thought about much before, depending on your background and depending on your discipline. And obviously, with you guys here working in healthcare, if you're being asked questions about sort of the economy, for example, or about global warming, that may not be your area of expertise. So it can be a little bit daunting when you are faced with questions that you're not so familiar with. I will make that point again, though. You're not expected to give specialist background knowledge. The questions don't require that. But still, it can be a little bit difficult to give opinions on things that you're not completely comfortable with or familiar with. Joselle is saying that you're not prepared for the future predictions. So yes, if you're not prepared for the types of questions that come up, that can be difficult. It can be daunting. It is one of those things that's a good point to make there, Joselle. It is the case, actually, that a lot of part 3 questions will move on to asking about your future predictions, how you think things will be in the future. They'll also ask you to compare the present with the past. So what this is obviously doing is it's testing a range of different tenses, but sometimes thinking of ideas can be challenging for part 3. Okay, good. So some good points there. So looking at part 3 then, what I want to do is I want to kind of just share a few tips in terms of what you should be doing and what you want to avoid doing. So what you should be doing when engaging in speaking part 3 is giving a clear, concise response. A lot of the questions are going to ask for an opinion, so it should be clear what your opinion is. But it's not as if you have to be 100% on one side of the argument. You, in many cases, will want to pose both sides. So you want to have a look at sort of one perspective and then maybe another perspective. So that's what you do want to do. Give a response that is structured and give a response that is clear. One thing you don't want to do is to hesitate for long periods of time. So if you get a question that you're not familiar with and then your response is to sort of go silent, and to really spend a lot of time thinking about your answer instead of actually giving a response, then that's a problem, because the examiner may look at that and think, well, actually, this is someone who struggles with fluency because they're hesitating a lot, they're pausing a lot, and it then means that you're not demonstrating the full capacity of your language ability, of your speaking ability. So that's something that you want to avoid in this part of the test. So in terms of not hesitating, what can you do? Imagine you get a question. It's a difficult question. You're not quite sure what your answer is initially. So what do you do in this situation? What do we think? Well, what I would suggest is that we use what are called time-buying phrases. Okay, there's little phrases that we can use that give us a little bit of time to think about our response. So we're not pausing. It's not a question, for example, we've got a question such as, how do you think that technology will evolve in the future? It's not kind of like, You're not pausing. You are giving some sort of response, but it can be a response that's almost pre-learned, or can literally be pre-learned, to just give you a little bit of thinking time. So here are some examples of what I'm talking about in terms of the phrases that we could use. So let me just bring this up now. So here we are. As I said, time-buying phrases. I'll just make these really big. So here are some examples. Let's imagine. So you get that question again about how you think technology will evolve in the future. Well, that's an interesting question. So you've given yourself a couple of seconds there. You've given a response. Then, of course, it's now time to actually talk. But sometimes just giving ourselves that extra couple of seconds can help to kind of settle us and allow our brain to start functioning. And that's what it's really about. It's just giving our brain that sort of couple of seconds to start functioning, to start firing before we go on and give the response. Okay, another phrase which is looking to achieve the same thing. Well, that's quite a difficult question. So Okay, so you can see we've given ourselves again a couple more seconds just before we then sort of go forth and then give the response. And again, those couple of seconds can be really important. It shows that we are speaking, it shows that we're engaging, we're using language, we're maintaining our fluency, but we're giving ourselves a little bit of time to respond to the question. And, you know, another one, exactly the same. I'm not sure about that. I guess. And then you can start giving a response. And because you're not expected to be a specialist, because you're not expected to be an expert necessarily in the topics that are being spoken about in part 3, it's fine to say that you're not sure. It's fine to say that this is a question which is new to you. That's absolutely fine. The point is that you're using language to buy yourself a little bit more time before you actually go on and attempt to give a response. So just looking here, I can see Mary saying, how can I practice my speaking on my own? Well, it's difficult. As Alex has said before, the wall doesn't respond, so it can be challenging.
Does not respond. Look, he doesn't speak. It's not a guy. It's not a girl. It doesn't respond.
Yeah, exactly. So it's tough.
So what would you say to that person, Alex?
I mean, my recommendation is the best way to do it is to record yourself, because in that way you're speaking and then also you play the role of the listener afterwards as well. So you've got that self-recording, you listen back to it, and if you're particularly good at recognizing your strengths and weaknesses, it can be helpful. But I think that what you also need in most cases is someone actually to guide you and say, look, this is what you need to be listening for. So as you've spoken to me, I've noticed you made a lot of mistakes, for example, with not using articles or with not using the past tense when you're referring to the past. So when you record yourself, these are the things you need to listen for. And so when you've got that sort of guidance, it can be useful. But when you're just sort of speaking to yourself, recording yourself, if you're not sure exactly what it is that you're listening for, it can be quite a challenge. So yeah,
it is a challenge. And Mary, you know, find yourself a teacher. Okay, there's lots of good quality teachers out there, schools, etc., companies, websites that can help you. Don't go through this process alone. It's a very frustrating process, and it will take you, if you go through self-study to get a 7 in speaking, it could take you this long, but with a teacher it could take you this long. So having someone who can give you feedback and corrections, because right now, you know, Alex and Alexander and I, we are native speakers. Tanya is a native speaker, so we understand the grammar rules, we understand vocabulary, we understand all the elements that you need in order to pass this examination. But you are a non-native speaker, so it's going to be difficult for you because you know, if you're, for example, you're a Filipino, your native language is Tagalog. So you know, if you're if you're from India, your native language is Hindi. So you know, having someone who can help you, give you that feedback and corrections and guidance is you know, hugely important if you want to achieve your American dream quicker. Just before you go on, Alex, we've got lots of people who are tagging their friends in on Facebook. So if you're in Lafora, keep tagging your friends and keep sharing the video. So share this video to your Facebook page, and we'll give you access to our free IELTS welcome pack. It's got lots of video course materials on reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So share the video and tag your friends inside the video, so we can get the message out there about all the support that Alexander and I can give to students today. And if you do want to come and practice your speaking, we're going to have a few people practicing. Come inside the class, and we will select some people. So if you've not registered for the class right now and you want to, then this is the link. I put it in on Facebook, swooshenglish.com/IELTS free class. Thank you very much. Lots and lots of people tagging their friends. Awesome. Army, Jefferson, Din, Pitty. Great.
Good stuff. Yeah. Okay. So, there's some advice for you, Mary, on that. And just to pick up where I was going before then. So you've got your phrases then, your time-buying phrases, just to give you a little bit more time to think about your response, so you maintain your fluency and you're not pausing for long periods. Once it comes to actually giving your response, you want to give a response that is structured. So what do I mean by structured? Well, if you're giving an opinion on something, making future predictions, for example, or if you're talking about the past compared to the present, which one is better? Which one is preferable? You know, I remember one question which was, do you think that the way in which we engage with culture now is better than the way that we engaged in culture in the past? So, you know, these sorts of questions can be quite difficult. But what we want to do is, in order to keep our responses coherent and to make them as intelligible as possible to the person who is listening, we want to use a structured response. So here are some examples as to how we can do that. So here we go. So looking at the first one, something like this. So firstly, I'd say that, imagine, for example, let's go to the first question that I talked about in terms of how you think technology is going to evolve in the future. You might say, firstly, I'd say that I think that there's going to be more technology. It's going to be easier to use. It's going to be cheaper. But then again, I also think that there's going to be issues in terms of a lack of resources and population growth. So overall, I'd say that there will be technological developments, but there will also be some challenges. Okay. So the ideas I've sort of added in there, but the ideas that I've used have been based on that fundamental structure. The first part where, you know, you look at one side of the argument, then the second part, you're looking at the other side of the argument, and then you're having some kind of overall summary that you can provide. So for those who have sort of written the essay, it's almost like a really, really short essay that you're looking to produce. But of course, it's spoken language, so you're going to be using slightly different phrases in order to express yourself. Looking at another one, let's say, for example, so yeah, do you think that the way that we engage in culture now is better than the way we engaged in culture in the past? We might say, you know, well, you know, the advantages of the way that we engage in culture now are that we are able to share our culture with the rest of the world. Because of the internet, we have a much greater global outreach. However, looking at the disadvantages, maybe now we're not as close as we used to be to our traditions, to the traditions of the past, to the way that we used to do things. So I think on balance, there are advantages and disadvantages. So we don't even have to necessarily give a sort of 100% response. We can be somewhere in the middle, but as long as we've kind of demonstrated that we are able to give a coherent, fluent response to the question, then that gives us the tools to be able to do well in part 3. And just looking at one final example there, imagine a question this time which says, for example, looking at global warming, do you think that we are on course to deal with the challenges that global warming poses? Then we can give a response like this. Sorry, I just noticed that I've made a little bit of a mistake there. So yeah, there are different perspectives. Looking at it from one perspective, we've got our global climate targets, which have been agreed on by most countries around the world. We're more aware now of things such as recycling and not using plastic bags and these sorts of things. On the other hand, we're still using too many fossil fuels. We're still driving cars. Too many of us are driving cars, which is polluting the planet. And so I tend to think that it's going to be difficult for us to meet our goals. So again, you know, it can be a difficult question, it can be a challenging question, but if we have a clear structure in place in terms of how we approach the question, we can sound more coherent and we can sound more fluent. And so these are some of the things that I want you to think about and to use in part 3 if you're not using them already. And for those who do get involved in the mock exam today and the mock practice, think about some of these different structures when I ask you the questions for part 3, and think about how you could use them in your responses. So I don't want to spend too much time on it because I want to give you an opportunity to do some practice as well. But if there are any questions at this stage, then please do let me know. So obviously, Mary already asked the question about speaking on her own. Are there any other questions or any other points that anyone else has?
Let's see, Alexander. I'm just looking on Facebook now.
Cool.
Okay. Lots of people tagging their friends. Army, Connie, Pamela, Kim. Awesome. Any questions? Anything that you want to ask? If you want to join the class as well, the link is here in the chat box, swooshenglish.com/IELTS free class. We would love to see you inside if you want practice with Alexander. No questions here, Alex.
Okay. Obviously, everything I've said has been so clear. It's no questions
Of course.
required.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, then. So these are the things to focus on, as I said, in relation to part 3. Give yourself some time to give a response, and by using some of the time-buying phrases, and make sure that your response is structured. So just to make sure that we have learned something from what I've been saying so far, a little bit of practice then. So let me bring up a part 3 type question, which I'm going to share in the chat. What I want you to do, you guys get active, participate, share some of your ideas. I want you to tell me a time-buying phrase that you could use just to give yourself a little bit of time to think about the response that you might provide. So a question then, let's imagine. So here we go. I'll say it and I'll write it as well so that you've got it in the chat, so you've got it both ways. So do you think it's easier to make decisions now compared to in the past? Okay. So this is the question. Have a look at the question and give me a time-buying phrase that you could use. Something that will just give you a couple of seconds whilst you think about the response that you're going to provide. Okay, so as you're doing that, I can just see there's another question that's come up here from Bincy, Mary John. How to improve pronunciation, how to improve tone, I guess sort of tone, sort of intonation. So this is one of the areas that takes, we always say, I mean, it's, it's the most common answer, isn't it? It's practice and practice and practice. But this is one of the areas which really does take the most practice, because depending on what your native language is, some of the sounds that you're required to make in English are sounds which you may never have made before in your native language. So I spent a lot of time working in South America, in Ecuador, and in Spanish, they have basically 5 vowel sounds. And in English, we have over 20. So it was very difficult for certain Spanish speakers to sort of recognize the differences in terms of the vowel sounds, how long they should be, how short they should be, some of the subtle differences, the weak vowel sounds that we would make, etc., etc. And it really does take a lot of practice in order to get your pronunciation just right. But essentially, exposure to the language, so listening to a lot of English speakers, you can sort of YouTube videos, obviously in sessions like this, you're hearing me speak, you're hearing me make all the different sounds in the language, and so the more that you listen, the more you're going to be comfortable in terms of hearing the sound, and then you've got to start producing it. So you've got to start trying to mimic the sound that you see, just as children do when they mimic their parents. Their parent might say something and the child just keeps repeating it again and again and again and again, because part of it is a learning tool, is that the sound of the word is maybe something which is original, which is something that's different, and that's where drilling comes in. So lots and lots of repetition. So if you want to get the vowel sound correct, for example, you want to get the difference between full and fool, then you've got to hear it a lot, you've got to listen to it a lot, and then you've got to start producing it yourself, like full, 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 fool, fool, fool. So you hear it, you repeat it, you hear it, you repeat it. A lot of listening, a lot of repetition is those are the sort of things that you need to do to really hammer down on pronunciation. There isn't a shortcut for it, really. Some people do pick it up naturally, and maybe because they've been exposed to it a lot, or because they've got a really good ear. Some people have a really good ear and they pick it up naturally. But if you struggle with pronunciation, it's a lot of repetition. Again, talking about my personal experience when I was learning Spanish, I really wanted to get that R sound, because particularly as someone from the UK, we don't really pronounce that R's. It's R. It's a vowel sound. But in Spanish, they'll say things like carro. They would say things like ahorrar. And, that really strong sound. And I got it literally by just speaking to myself and saying the words again and again and again, sounding like someone who probably was a little bit strange, but it's the way to get it. You have to be really dedicated with pronunciation, really focus on repetition in order to get where you need to get. Good. Okay, so some good responses here. Well, that is a very interesting question, I think. Yeah. Remember, question is uncountable, so use the article. That is a very interesting question, but good. Yeah, that would be a good way to buy yourself some time. That is quite an interesting question to ask, says Hannah. Honestly speaking, I can confidently say that. Okay, that's good. That's good, you know, and it's grammatically correct. Just be careful it doesn't become unnatural, though. I would use one of those things. So either that's an interesting question to ask, or I would say, honestly speaking, I can confidently say that. So I'd use one or the other. If you use them both together, then it can seem a little bit artificial, but you've got the idea. And Arlene is saying, well, that's an interesting question. Perfect. Good. Okay. So let's go back to the question now. Then you've got the time buying phrases, and we've got some good ones here. How could you give a structured response to this question? How could you do it? Oh, great. We've got a response already. So I'll just read out the response here from Galaxy S8. So I'm assuming that's not your actual name, but that's what you're coming up as here. So, well, that's an interesting question. In my own perspective, decision-making vary from person to person. For instance, currently in my experience in my workplace, I find it's easy to make decisions, especially I'm dealing with patient lives. On the other hand, in the past, decision-making is also easy if you are well organized with it. Okay, so the structure there is good. There are a couple of grammatical mistakes. So, for example, you know, decision-making varies, of course, because it's third-person singular. It's a singular subject you've got there, decision-making. So it should be with varies from person to person. But you've got the structure there really nicely, and you know, you've given a balanced response. You might want to expand on it even more, in fact, because you're saying, you know, in my experience, in my workplace, I find it's easy to make decisions, especially I'm dealing with patients' lives. Dealing with patients' lives, I'd imagine, would be quite challenging. So maybe you'd want to expand on that a little bit. Just think a little bit about the content. But the structure there is really nice, and that's the kind of structure that you want to be using for this part of the test. Hannah Sarmiento, state my present situation, then compare it to the past. Yeah, absolutely. But it's just about thinking, what sort of language are you going to use in order to do that? That's what you want to be focusing on. And obviously some of the examples that I gave before are a specific language that you can actually use in this part of the test. So start thinking about, okay, what are specific words and phrases that I'm going to use in order to give a structured response to the questions. And Galaxy 8 gave a nice example there. So I don't know, do we want to start with doing some mock exams now, or have we got a few more questions?
Absolutely, Alex. Yeah. Let's
okay.
get going. Please, can you let us know in the chat box who would like to practice their speaking with Alexander? This is a fantastic opportunity to do a real, a real exam for speaking and getting feedback and corrections and a score as well. So if you've never had your speaking assessed by a highly experienced UK Ielts teacher before, then this is the opportunity for you. This is the day to have it with our teacher, Alexander. So if you would like to have your speaking assessed, please say, yes, I want to practice in the chat box. Yes, I want to practice. And then we'll bring you into the class, and then you will do the speaking exam with Alex, and he'll give you a score and feedback afterwards. So let me know in the chat box if you would like to have that practice. If you're watching on Lafora right now and you're in the Facebook group and you want that speaking practice, then join the class today. The link is in the chat box. All you need to do is click that, register. It's completely free. Come inside, and then we will practice with you and give you the feedback that you need. I think we could have Mary Joy Almeria come in first. Okay, perfect. So let's see if I can bring Mary in. Okay, Mary. Let's see where you are. Okay, Mary. Hello, Mary, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me, sir?
Hello, Mary, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Okay, and we can see you. How are you?
This is novel.
Good. Yes. So Mary, so how are you? Well, I want to say first off, it's great that you volunteered, that you want to have your speaking assessed by Alex, because you're going to get a huge amount of benefit. It's going to help you a lot being marked by Alexander today. Have you taken your exam before, Mary?
Not yet. This coming April would be my first IELTS exam.
Okay, and why did you decide on April?
Because that's the only schedule that they have that they offer here in my hometown. So I figured
Okay.
I might as well take it. Yeah.
You're in the Philippines, yeah?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
I am.
So it's something. I mean, would you say the IELTS exam is expensive for you?
Compared to my expenses that we had to come up from my NCLEX exam, it's not that much.
Okay. But it is a lot if you start to do what a lot of other nurses do, pay for 4, 5, 6 exams. Yeah. So what we want to do, we want to make sure that when you do take your exam, you pass first time and you can move on with the process in becoming a nurse in the US, because we did a poll are you in Lafora?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yeah, you're in Lafora. We did a poll recently and 10% of nurses have done it 5 times or more. 10%. Okay, it's a lot, Alexander. Yeah, it's a lot, and there's other nurses who've taken it 3 and 4 times as well. So we want to make sure you pass as soon as possible, Mary. Are you practicing your speaking every day?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I've
Are you
been
sure?
in constant.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure.
You're lying. Yeah.
Yeah, because no, actually, I've been in constant communication with my aunt, and she makes it to a point that every now and then, whenever she calls, and she calls me practically every day, that we would speak English. So I would develop my confidence, my pronunciation, my vocabulary, everything.
Yeah.
So it is good as practice for me.
Okay. Well, you need to be practicing every day if you want to get a 7 and you're serious about getting a 7, and it seems like you are, because you've been going through the process. Have you passed your NCLEX exam?
Yes, I did, sir.
Okay, so now it's all about IELTS. Yes, you need to be practicing every day, and you're going to get the practice that you need from Alexander now. Okay, in today's session. So I'm going to hand you over to Alexander now. Your internet's very good, by the way, Mary.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sometimes in the Philippines it's a bit shaky. Anyway, Alexander, I will let you examine Mary now.
Okay. So I feel like the doctor now. I'm going to examine you. Wonderful. Okay. Different to the way that you would examine someone. Okay, Mary. Great that you're involved here. Relax and just definitely for the first part of the conversation, as I'm sure you've had experience with IELTS before, it's basically just going to be me asking you questions about your hobbies and your background. It's kind of the introductory questions. Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So are we ready to begin?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So to start with, Mary, sorry, just bring up some questions here. Okay. First of all, can I ask you, do you work or study?
I'm currently studying, reviewing for my upcoming IELTS examination.
Okay. And how long have you been studying?
I've been studying and reviewing my notes from my friends last December. So I've been studying on and off because of the holidays. So I had to take a break, be with the family. But since January until this day currently, so I'm reviewing for my IELTS. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about your free time. Do you have a lot of free time?
In my hands, yes, I do, because I'm currently not working, I'm not tied up to any company right now. So yeah.
What do you like to do when you're at home?
Basically, what I do is I'd like to clean. I'd like to tidy up my things. So I'd like to keep my room free from clutter, my clothes neatly tied, but currently, yeah. So then after that, have my bath and then head to the gym for my daily workouts. Yeah.
Do you spend more time with your family or with friends?
I spend more time with family because they tend to be strict with me. So even at my age right now, I still have my curfew. So most of the time, I'd like to. I'm always at home.
Where do you go when you go out?
Just hang out in the mall, do some window shopping, sometimes by myself, sometimes my friends if they're around or if they have free time. Also, I'll go If ever my friends would invite me to go out, we would be in a coffee shop, just drinking, chatting, catching up. So yeah.
Now let's talk about keeping fit. Do you try to keep fit?
Yes, I do. Most of the time, yeah.
How?
I do mostly cardio with my exercises. So I do first things first, 30 minutes cardio, which involves running in the treadmill, then do jumping jacks. Then after that, I would do weights, but I would focus more on my, I'm toning my legs and my arms. So that's how I do it.
Do you think it's important for young people to keep fit?
Oh, very much. Yeah, I think it is. Because in our generation right now, young people, especially in my age, tend to overlook their health. So they tend to be lazy. So they tend to adapt a sedentary lifestyle, which is not very good, because with that you are pretty much exposing yourself to a lifetime of diseases. So health is really important. Yeah.
Is sport compulsory for school children in your country?
I think yes, actually. School nowadays, I think they either let the children choose whether to be active in sports or to do to adapt and learn a musical instrument, something they're really fond of. But nowadays, children tend to gear up more on volleyball, basketball. They tend to be more active, so they can. It's also one of their ways to, number one, stay active, and number two is maybe to get some extra credit for their grades.
Do you do any sports?
Recently, no. But back when I was still a kid, I was really fond of volleyball. So it was one of my sports then. But nowadays, I don't play much.
Have you ever watched a live sporting event?
Never. I haven't had any chance to do that. So I basically watch my sport on the television.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to the next section of the speaking exam. So in this section, you will be given a topic on which you'll be expected to speak for between 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. Okay? So
okay, sir.
Okay, so I'm just going to share the card with you now. Just let me know if you can see it clearly. I'll make it as big as possible. Okay, can you see it? Yep, perfect. Okay, so you have 1 minute to prepare your response to this question. Okay, so now, Mary, could you describe an important decision that you had to make?
The recent important decision that I have to make was to pursue my American dream, which I have been gearing on since I was a kid, but I neglected it. So the first thing that I have to do to achieve that dream was to take up NCLEX, which I was terrified to embark on, because I know that the exam is hard and it's not easy to pass in one take. Most people get lucky, most of the people I know. So the person that helped me decide to take on that NCLEX exam was, first of all, was my boyfriend. He actually like sat me one-on-one and asked me, what do you want to do? Like, are you satisfied with where you are right now? Don't you have any future plans? So that's when I started gaining up courage and confidence that I would take it no matter what. It was that moment that helped me realize that I can achieve anything if I put my mind to it. It's a very important decision in my part because first thing, if I'm gonna pass the exam, that's one way ticket of securing my future, financial stability, housing, of course, and then the third thing that's made me think that what my decision was important was because of my parents. They're getting old, and I don't want them to just live day to day and not have any savings for themselves. I want them to stop working as early as possible and enjoy life, enjoy their retirement as much as they can. So for me, it was really eye-opening to help to realize that if I do this and if I make it, it's gonna be life-changing. So that was it wasn't only my one of the important decisions I have to make, but it was also like my turning points in my life.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary. Thank you. So, Mary, the question asked you to describe an important decision that you had to make. Do you think it's harder to make decisions nowadays because we have so many choices?
Well, that's interesting. I think so, yes. Nowadays, nurses have the option to work abroad, not particularly in the US, but if one nurse is really keen to going abroad and going it as soon as possible, they tend to sort to work in Saudi Arabia. They tend to work in the Middle East, which is easy. And it's also, they get to earn like an average of 60,000 a month. So there's also this option of going to the UK also, but the language barrier is hard to overcome. They just have to learn and speak the language really well for them to be accepted in the country. So yeah, it's really hard, especially that all these avenues have opened to us.
What are the disadvantages of asking for other people's advice when making a decision?
The disadvantage that I see in that is that every person has their own opinion, and their opinion are based on their personal experiences. So if as a person, if they rely mostly on that person's opinion regarding decision making, it would be hard for that person because they tend to listen and gauge to their ideas more than of themselves. So it's really, that's a big hurdle. Yeah.
Why do you think some people are better at making decisions than others?
I don't really believe that per se. I think a person can make his or own decisions by himself or herself if he's really committed to that one. Like if he strongly believes that that decision is really gonna be good for him or her, then that decision should be that they should go for that. That's the important thing. Yeah.
Do you think children should be given the opportunity to make their own decisions?
Children should be, I think that is why there's a law stating that there's an age bracket for children to decide for themselves, or they have that option called, from what I can remember, it's called the Emancipation Law, where they have to go to court and apply for it. So they can have even though they're underage, and what we consider underage is by 18 below. So even at that age, without their parents' consent, they can make decisions, whether it may be life-changing, whether it may be like everyday decisions, they can do it for themselves.
And do you think this is a good thing?
It has a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing because they can develop a sense of independence. They can learn to look out for themselves. They can learn how to take responsibility. There's also a bad thing, bad side on that, because most of the time children lack the experience to decide whether option A is better than option B. So, and most of the time, from what I can see in the news, that option B is the bad decision to go, and they mostly go for that one. So it's sometimes risking their life, their future. They're almost compromising everything. So yeah.
Which sorts of decisions do you think children should make for themselves?
Maybe simple decisions like who they can be friends with, who they want to be their everyday playmate. Also, what toys do they like? Which toys can pique their interest? Which toys can make them learn? So I think those are things that they can make decisions for themselves.
Some people say we only learn by making mistakes. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree, because when you base your decisions on past experience, like say for example riding a bike, and then when that person's first experience of riding a bike, he didn't have that side wheels, so when he rode that bike, he fell down and he had bruises on him that he had to be taken to the hospital for his or her bruises to be tended to. So yeah, it's gonna affect the past experience. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary.
Thank you so much too.
Okay, how did you feel about the exam?
Actually, my hands are cold right now.
It's not to do with the temperature.
No, the temperature is high in the Philippines, but my hands are cold and I'm sweating.
Oh, you didn't seem that way. You seemed confident. You seemed like you were in control.
Yeah, you seem very confident, Mary. Well done.
Absolutely.
Well done. And Tanya, what did you think of Mary's performance? Are you there, Tanya?
Yes, I can't seem to get my video on. If you want to enable it.
Yeah, let's see. You should be able to. Okay. Yeah, Tanya.
Okay,
there you are.
We go. I thought Mary was amazing. I mean, I'm not an Ielts examiner, but I've listened to many of these mock tests, and I thought Mary was really, really good, really fluent. And I was just taking some notes, just some like where she said, Alex spoke about the time buying phrases, where she said that's an interesting question. So I think it was really impressive that she picked up on that, because obviously she didn't have the answer at the tip of her fingertips at that point, but that was really well done.
Absolutely, fast learning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I saw Alexander smile when you said that's an interesting question, Mary.
Yeah.
He was like, yes, someone's been listening to and using my ideas. Because you can listen, but if you're not using it.
Absolutely, yeah. This is essentially sort of at least my raison d'etre, isn't it? That's the whole point, really. It's kind of like if you're actually using the ideas, then it makes sense of what we're doing. Definitely.
Yeah, Mary,
well
I was
done,
very
Mary.
impressed with your performance. Well done.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, there you go. I mean, there's your feedback, Mary. You've impressed everyone there. I think what was particularly impressive, obviously, the fact that you were using strategies in a way which was clear and which helped give you a little bit of time to respond. I think the particular strength was your use of vocabulary. So you've got a lot of really good phrases there which you've picked up. Just to give a few examples. You're using things like sort of keen on, lots of sort of expressions which are more sort of informal native expressions, which are really good to use in speaking. You talked about heading to the gym, hanging out at the mall, that you spend time chatting with friends and stuff like that. and even some of the more sort of formal phrases, people sort of overlooking their health, lots of really good collocations where you sort of correctly manage to match words together and use the sorts of words that often aren't used by people who are not native speakers. So obviously you've had a lot of exposure to native English speakers, which has given you those sorts of phrases. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I actually watch English series, movies. It helped me a lot with adapting with how native speakers speak their language, and some of my vocabulary honestly it came from watching TV.
Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, however you pick it up, it's just great that you have actually picked it up and you're using it correctly as well. That's the point. You're not kind of using it in ways which would be unnatural. You're using these words and expressions in a very natural way. So that was definitely, I think, a strength among all the strengths that you had there. I thought that in terms of your pronunciation, it was really strong. It was really good for the most part. You were able to pronounce sort of individual sounds and phrases with, there was no difficulty on my part in terms of listening. The only sort of one thing that I picked up on was sometimes actually the difference between the t and the d sound. So there was one point where you were talking about, I did note it down. That's it. Yeah, you said something like, I didn't had that. And I wasn't sure whether you meant to say that, whether that was a grammatical mistake or whether it was to do with a pronunciation slight error there. So that was just something that, yeah, it was actually the d and the v phoneme, sorry. Yeah, that sometimes were coming up. It's like, you wanted to say have, but it came out as had. So I wasn't sure if it was grammatical or whether it was to do with pronunciation. Because the rest of your grammar was really strong. So that's why I thought it might be more of a pronunciation thing that had come up there. But yeah, that would be just sort of one thing just to look at, the sort of the d and the v sounds, which were sort of not completely clear, but generally speaking, the pronunciation was really strong. Just a little bit of variation. So you really, you use the phrase tend to a lot, which is a really nice phrase to use. Because it helps to sort of to hedge what we're saying a little bit. So it's not something that we do all the time, but it's something we do as a habit, as a routine. But to think about sort of other phrases you could use with a similar meaning, just to provide a little bit more variety. So you can talk about the fact, we tend to do this, we tend to do that, but you could also say it's something we usually do, or it's it's something which we often do, or generally, it's something we generally do. So it just gives you a little bit more variety, so that you're not using one phrase too often. I'm having to focus on small things here because I want to give you some things that you can use, but most of it really was really positive. And then just one final thing. You were using the phrase. So I said it was really good. You were using some phrases which are less common, and at one point you used keen to, which is a really good phrase to use, but just a little bit of grammar. With keen to, you would actually use the infinitive. So you would say, like, I'm keen to do this, I'm keen to play football, or I'm keen to go abroad. And at one point you said keen to going. So if you're going to use going, then you'd actually say keen on. Yeah, so I'm keen on going, I'm keen on doing. So the two phrases are very similar, but it's just a slight grammatical difference there. But Mary,
as I say, you write it down notes.
Yeah, I am. I'm writing it down on my phone.
These are really this is feedback that you wouldn't know otherwise, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You would never be corrected on your speaking. That's why it's great that you've taken such a great opportunity to have your speaking assessed.
Absolutely. So so I've picked up on some things there, but as I say, it was really, really strong what you were doing overall. And have you done the Ielts before? I know you were talking to Alex, but I don't think you have you? No, you haven't. No, I would feel very confident that you're going to be getting the score that you need, really. I think in all of the areas, I would say that you're at least at a 7. I think in terms of lexical resource, I think you could achieve actually an 8 in that, I would say, just because of the variety.
Wow.
So I would feel pretty confident about that. Obviously, stay focused, but well done.
Very good, Mary. I think Mary's probably the strongest, one of the strongest ones we've had, Alexander, in the classes, because previously we've done some speaking mock exams with students that Alexander was saying was ran about a 6.5.
That's right.
So, you know, we're not just saying these things to you, Mary, to be nice. We're telling you we actually really firmly believe that, you know, your performance is very good.
Yeah.
I was actually listening to the previous classes, but I really wanted to participate, but I was lacking confidence. You know, I was attempting to log in, but my hands just started feeling cold. So I was like, I'll just
Really?
postpone it for a bit. Yeah.
What was the difference this week compared to the previous weeks? Why did you volunteer today compared to previously?
I thought to myself, what the heck? This is why it's why it's a class. I might as well attend it and get some good feedback so I could improve myself.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes when I'm doing something that I'm scared of, instead of thinking about it too much, I just make the decision and think about the consequences later.
Yeah, that's what I did today.
Yeah. I don't mean for things like robbing banks, just make the decision.
No.
But, you know, there's certain things that rule doesn't apply to. Okay?
Exactly.
In this situation, you've got to make the decision and just say, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Tanya, have you been robbing banks recently?
I was just going to say, Alex, I'm pleased that you clarified that statement. We don't want to be giving people the wrong advice here. But really, I was so impressed with you, and I really think so amazing to have had the courage to be able to come on. I know that you said that you were sweating and that you were nervous and all of those things, but it didn't show at all. So I think Alex's advice is really good. Is just, you know, often with the IELTS, and I've seen with so many students coming in, is that we tend to overthink it. So we tend to get, and I'm not saying don't do the practice, because of course you have to do the practice. I mean, there's a lot at stake. You were talking about, you know, your parents, and you want to give them a better life and help them retire and be more comfortable. And of course, we want that for you as well. That's why we're doing these classes. But I think once you've got that practice, you have to just go for it, which is what you did today. So you've really set a great example for everybody watching. Well done.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well done, Mary. Huge congratulations to you. And for all the students watching now, we're going to be having questions. So Alexander's going to be sticking around for questions. So if you do have questions, please let us know. And can everyone tell us what they learned in the and by the way, Mary, you've got some fantastic feedback from all of our amazing students in the class. Lots of people in the chat box, so please make sure you write down their notes on their feedback. Galaxy S8, I noticed that she's quite nervous and stuttering a lot. I thought she appeared confident. She needs more practice in speaking. I thought you did really well, Mary. I do agree that you need more practice, but I definitely think that your performance was strong. But lots of people, Don Thomas seems to be anxious, which is common. Yeah, I think that's normal in an exam. Anytime I do an exam, I'm feeling anxious. I think that's normal. And Raquel has to widen her vocabulary. I thought her vocabulary was very good. I think I can always widen my vocabulary, Mary, and I'm a native speaker. So that's a never-ending pursuit in life. Arlene, she's good. I suggest to avoid fillers. I think you mean fillers. When answering questions, we can always try to minimize the amount of fillers like ums and ahs that we are doing in our speaking. So so thank you to everyone who's provided the feedback, not feedbacks, Mary. There's no S on feedback. So it's an uncountable noun. So thank you very much, everyone. Has anyone got any questions? And make sure you share today's Facebook Live video. Okay, share the Facebook Live video, and I'm going to give, if you do share it, I'm going to give the free welcome pack to you, which has got lots of video course materials, reading, writing, listening, speaking, which will help you. So if you do want access to that, then please keep sharing the video. I'm going to get that link for you now, and I want everyone to access that. Okay, so I'm going to put it on the Fora, and I'm also going to put it on Zoom as well. So the welcome pack is in there. Okay, it's on the Lafora comment section. So just click that link, and then you'll be able to get access to it. And also, if you're inside on Zoom, oh, I will just bring you out, Mary. 1 second. Okay, so thank you very much to Mary for getting involved. Anyone who wants to get access to that welcome pack, I'm just going to get that now, and I'm going to give it to you on Zoom, but I've already posted it on Facebook. So if you want that welcome pack, there it is. Okay, I've posted it in the chat box, and that's completely free, and you'll be able to get access to that. If anyone's got any questions about when they should take the exam based on what previous scores they got, please let us know actually in the message box. If you've taken the exam before and you didn't get a 7 in speaking and a 6.5 overall, and you're looking for recommendations on when you should take that exam, then please let us know your scores. Give us as much information as possible in the Zoom class, and we'll do our best to give you the feedback you need on when you should go ahead and take that exam. Should you take it this month, next month, the month after that? How long is it going to take you to prepare? What do you need to do every single day with practice? Why are you failing on speaking and writing, reading, listening, or whatever the area that you struggle with? I'm going to give you as much help and support as possible in this session. And anyone who's on Facebook, I'm going to be stopping the Facebook live stream now. Thank you to everyone in Lafora who came along to the class. We appreciate you coming along. And Tanya, any last words for the nurses on Lafora?
Well, before we get to the nurses, you will notice, Alex, that I removed the lamp behind me. The lamp hat that I was wearing.
No lamp hat.
Because I didn't want to be teased by you anymore. That's how people know that this is really live.
Yeah.
And we are, you know, and anything can happen in live, Facebook Live. But I really wanted to thank Alex Squared, double Alex today, and especially to Mary. I think you did really well, Mary. And one good tip that Mary also raised, which I know we've spoken about before, but I just wanted to remind everybody, is to watch TV, English TV, because I think that really can help a lot with fluency. That is not enough, though. So as Alex said, really important to practice. A good suggestion is to join the Kinetic Swoosh IELTS support group. It is 100% free. We will put you together with a study partner. There's a lot of materials and a lot of very good study information that is posted in there every single day. So there's a lot of free materials, and we encourage everybody to make use of that. The other thing just to talk about quickly is that the visa bulletin came out today, and there was some good news. So really there is no better time to get your IELTS done if you haven't got your NCLEX done as well, but to get your IELTS done certainly as soon as possible so that we can make your American dream come true.
Yeah, do not delay, everyone, especially with that great news from our amazing friend in the US called Donald Trump, our best friend in the whole world. he has given us this good news, which is great news for nurses. So I'm sure you'll all be hugging and kissing him when you go to America and you achieve your American dream. So thank you very much. And also, we've got lots of people who took part recently in our free IELTS benchmark exam competition. And this is where we gave a lot of nurses our benchmark exam, and they have been reporting some fantastic news about their scores, knowing when they should take their exam. And this was all done in conjunction with Kinetics. So we will be doing one of those competitions again in 2 or 3 weeks. So please look out for that. And remember, Swoosh will help you to pass IELTS, and Kinetics will help you to get your American dream. Thank you to everyone who's come along to the session today in Lafora.
Alex, just one last thought. One of the nurses actually gave me a great, you know, I love analogies, gave me a great analogy, and I wanted to share that with everybody just in terms of that benchmark exam. One of the nurses said to me that Alex says that the wall can't give you feedback, but that the benchmark test is your mirror. It's a mirror.
Mm.
So there's a mirror on the wall. So if you take the benchmark test, you can use that as your mirror to be able to be a guide of where you are going right or wrong in your practice for your IELTS exam. So I just thought that's a good way of looking at it.
That is a good way of looking at it, yeah. And I'm so glad that that's helped that nurse and all the other nurses who've been reporting fantastic feedback. But we'll be running that competition again in 2 to 3 weeks' time. So look out for that. Make sure if you're not in Lefora now, Lefora, make sure you search for it on Facebook. And you know you're a Filipino nurse, etc. Of course, we've got some nurses who are not Filipino. But if that group is specifically for Filipino nurses, and we'll be running that competition in that group in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So thanks to everyone on Facebook. I'm going to be staying in the Zoom class a little bit longer to help some of our students in the session. But for everyone who is in Lefora, thank you so much for coming along to the session. I appreciate your time and trusting us with your IELTS preparations. And thank you also to my partner in crime, shall we call her, Tanya Friedman from Kinetics. And
thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much, Tanya. I was very impressed with your active listening skills as well, which is also really important for everyone else with their IELTS exam when it came to listening to Mary's performance, Tanya. So you also get a band score 7 as well.
Oh, thank you, Alex.
Listening.
With
You're
that, I can leave here happy and look forward to a good weekend.
Absolutely, yeah. And look forward to your 5 a.m. wake up next Friday. Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone. Absolutely. No lamp pat next time. Okay. So everyone on Facebook, thank you very much. And on Zoom, inside the class, I will be sticking around to answer some of your questions. I know Bincy and Don have got some questions, so I will be helping them. Thank you very much to everyone on the floor. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.